بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون.
So it's just all this controversy with regards to the atheist Islam Hamza versus Lawrence Krauss debate. Like, what's your take on it, bro? I mean, you were there at the debate, I was there.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You know what, bro? It was a fascinating debate because it sort of lifted the veil that's been surrounding Islam and atheism to an extent as well, I guess. You know, subhanAllah. And you know, you were there yourself, so maybe we can go into a bit of a discussion about what happened at the debate, how it unfolded, how it was covered up. You can say covered up to an extent later on, inshallah.
Yeah.
But yes, subhanAllah, it was good, man.
You know what I thought, personally for me, is like, I mean, we'll go into the debate in a second, but I just want to mention something that came as a direct consequence of the debate. I mean, never has a debate happened at such a level between a Muslim and an atheist. Okay, I mean, you have two high-profile speakers, right, spokesmen, as it were, coming to the podium and engaging two monumental worldviews. Well, atheism is not as monumental, but it's increasing, and obviously mainstream atheists such as Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss himself, Sam Harris, they hold a lot of weight, right? So it was you could say, a clash of the titans. And I don't think, right, an atheist has ever come across an atheist of such high profile has ever come across a Muslim, right, or a theist in any regard, that can actually defend Islam on an intellectual and academic basis, right? And they never expected it from a Muslim. So I think that for the first time, it's been a real shock. Like, really? And you know, we've seen this with regards to, I mean, look, William Lane Craig debated Sam Harris. He also debated Professor Lawrence Krauss. And with all due respect, it's clear who won the debate, right? Yeah. The theist, of course. Now, but this debate was different because everyone got involved. I mean, you have Richard Dawkins that was tweeting like he felt like, I need to get involved and back my guy here. And Sam Harris got involved, and you have people like PZ Meyer, and you know, we had people talking about it from all over. Yeah. And I really think for the first time, the whole kind of new atheist movement, as it were, felt like it was just sucked in, because for the first time, it's like they were given a real solid blow from a theist, and it just so happened it was from a Muslim.
I mean, yeah, I agree, subhanAllah. Like you said, you know, it highlighted many things, this debate, and I think one of the most important things it highlighted was that the Islamic narrative is far different from any other religion.
Exactly.
It's not based on blind faith, as it would have you believe, basically. As atheists, certain popular atheists would have you believe, right? It doesn't sit in the same boat as Christianity or other religions.
I agree.
And I think that was one of the blows to the system, I guess. And another thing I think that was highlighted in the debate was some of the problems of maintaining the atheistic worldview.
Yeah.
You know, the problems of maintaining a naturalistic, materialistic worldview. And you know, for example, when Professor Krauss was asked regarding, you know, if he thought incest was wrong.
It was wrong, yeah.
Right? What was his reply? Do you remember what his reply was?
He said, you know, he attempted to rationally, obviously, justify it. Although he was making, as you said just before, you know, earlier you mentioned that he was making moral judgments throughout the whole debate. But on this one instance, right, he decided to try and rationally justify something that was a taboo.
This is the thing, bro. Right? The thing is, these atheists, what you see with these popular speakers, they use a lot of rhetoric.
Yeah.
Right? They have this amazing ability to speak and communicate to the audience, and to entertain the audience, get them involved. Yeah. But what you don't realize is the fallacies of their arguments, basically.
Yeah.
For example, you saw Krauss was continuously passing moral judgments throughout the debate. Throughout his talk, he was continuously saying Islam is bad, this is wrong, this shouldn't be like this. You know, women are dressed in bin bags and what have you. All of these sort of fallacious claims, you know, the assertions that he was making. But the thing is, when you maintain atheism, you have no basis for your morality. You cannot anchor your morality.
It's true.
You cannot claim objective morality in any sense of the way.
And it was unfair that he was inconsistent with regards to trying to rationalize, right? I mean, he was trying to rationalize incest to the degree that he actually said that if a brother and a sister wear contraception,
that's burying yourself.
Right, that was burying yourself. He tried to rationalize, and you know, he didn't say this, but I mean, you can actually go. You could take what he said, and the implication is you could basically go and also sleep with your mum, right? As long as you use contraception, provided you're in love with each other and you can rationally justify it. But you know, it would have been a lot nicer to see him try and rationalize the viewpoint of our, you know, respectable and honourable sisters in the back that were wearing bags according to him. Because if you try and rationally justify why our women wear the hijab, right, the scarf, I mean, well, personally it's because they feel secure, because they don't feel like a piece of meat as the rest of, you know, mainstream women do out there, you know, having to make sure that you've got layers of makeup on before you leave, and having to make sure that you look pleasing to the opposite gender. They feel comfortable in their skin. They don't have to worry about getting raped. You know, I mean, rape is on the rise in today in our society like it is never before. I mean, you ask a rapist, right, who would you rather rape? A woman dressed in a miniskirt, or a woman that is respectably wearing a hijab and a abaya covering herself? I mean, I think that there's very good grounds to suggest that there's valid rational reasons, but he didn't do that. He was very unfair, which seemed like he was trying to put forth, you know, like as you said, you know, he was trying to use rhetoric to try and push forth. It was a very clever, like, sleight of mind, as it were, to push forth his worldview. And what was interesting was, right, I mean, like, for example, on the topic of homosexuality, he tried to justify homosexuality on the basis of animals, right, in the animal kingdom, that engage in homosexual acts. And what was even more astonishing and you see this trend, right, like, you know, atheists constantly and secularists are trying to, you know, use animals as role models for human beings. And P.Z. Myers, right, he wrote this article that I've just come to read, and, like, you know, I was absolutely shocked to see what he had written.
Shocking.
He tried to justify the notion of incest and show how it's not that strange and we shouldn't be so disgusted because horses engage in incest. And he threw out this crazy diagram.
This is the thing, bro, and this is the problem. I mean, and this is what we've got to really outline, and this is what atheists have been sort of pushing into their pockets.
Yeah.
The point is, without the presence of God, right? Without that divine presence, you know, without the divine being, if you take God out of the picture, the only other things you have to base your morality in are either evolution or social pressure, right?
Okay.
And either one of these two render morality subjective or relative at best.
Exactly.
Right? You don't have objective morality.
It's true.
There is no right and wrong in the atheist worldview.
It's true.
And this is dangerous because you can, I mean, here's the thing, you can justify pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Right? All you need is a powerful person, right? An influential person, someone like Krauss. And he can come along and influence millions, right? And this is why that statement, although he didn't, like you said, he didn't clearly say incest was right, do it, or it's wrong, don't do it. He said neither. He was neutral, right? He said he left it open. He left an open playing field, right? And this is the problem because now it's neither right nor is it wrong.
So you need to have basically boundaries.
Yeah, and atheists don't have any objective basis. They don't have any grounding for their moral values.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So it's just a matter of saying, I believe it's right. And another atheist cannot prove the atheist that says I believe it's right wrong, you know, because he doesn't have any basis to say that is. For example, I'll give you an example. Say there was two atheists, for example, and one atheist, he's walking down an alley, and he sees a man getting a child and beating the child, right? Now this man, obviously, and we know as Muslims, from our perspective, we know that objective morals do exist, right and wrong does exist.
Of course.
But see, say this man looks at him and he says to him, this atheist looks at him and he says to him, don't kill that child, or don't beat that child, it's wrong, right? Now the man turns around that's beating the child, he turns around and says, why is it wrong? What's the atheist going to say? Because I think it's wrong? Because I feel like it's wrong? The man's just going to turn around, he could just turn around and say, well, I feel like it's right. Game over. You have no basis.
So what you're saying is, right, that of course I understand the part about social pressure and evolution rendering morality subjective. Okay, and that's the point that you're making there. So what you're saying is, like, we as theists, the viewpoint that we take, obviously, is that morality, objective morality, does in fact exist. And you can see this in the words of the atheists themselves. For example, look how easy it is for Professor Krauss to pass moral judgments. Sam Harris, Richard Dawkins. I mean, if you read his book, The God Delusion, it's filled. It's filled with moral judgment. So you can see that there is this innate morality, right? And also several psychological tests and researches have been conducted to show that that people have a sense of objective morality. For example, the first time an individual lies, right, their heartbeat starts pacing, their voice croaks up, their palms get sweaty. And when the researchers were asked why is this happening, the answer they gave is that the best thing that we can say is that human beings weren't made to lie. So we can see there's an innate there is an innate morality inside us, right? Now, where did this morality come from?
Atheists can't justify that.
They can't. But what we say, right, is that it had to have come from a higher moral being that presented these, that instilled these objective morals within us. I mean, they're here. You need to find an explanation for it. Atheism, unfortunately, doesn't provide a suitable explanation. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's what you just mentioned about there not being any boundaries reminds me of a verse in the Quran in which Allah, He states that do you see the one who takes his desires as a deity? He takes his own desires as a god, right? So when you have no boundaries, when you don't have boundaries set out there, whether it's divine law or whatever kind of law it is, right? You're going to transgress and you're going to do whatever you want to do, right? This concept of nafsiyah, like whatever you want to do, you'll go out there and do that, right? And what's amazing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they don't listen nor do they think. They are like the cattle. No, they are worse than the cattle, right? Allah's saying that they're worse than animals. And what more do you expect when they take animals as role models? I mean, this leads into the point that I was previously making. Like, since when did animals become appropriate role models for human beings? I mean, you have animals that engage in rape-like orgies. You have animals that eat their own feces. You have animals that kill their young. So what if you have animals that engage in incest and homosexual acts? Well, then go and eat your young, right? Go and eat your feces and engage in rape-like orgies outside.
That's the problem. That's exactly the problem. And this is the thing, and this is what they underplay a lot. Atheists underplay this a lot, and they don't want to deal with this question. How can you? How do you substantiate your moral values? Again, we come back to the point, and we're pressing this, but it's essential we press this because this is important, right? And again, like I said, Krauss continuously passed moral judgments. Before he could even do that, he should justify what he bases his moral values on. Why is it what that he's saying
is valid?
Is valid. Holds weight. Why? Why should we believe that? What is his morality based in? What is the grounding for his moral?
And if he tries to say that it's because you're trying to rationalize, well, as we just said earlier, the moral judgments he made, he did not rationalize them. Right? He did not rationalize them. For example, talking about the hijab, right? Insulting the hijab. In fact, having a total disregard for segregation. I mean, I don't want to go into the implications, the consequences of. I mean, look, the consequences of having a society that is all nilly-willy when it comes to free mixing and sexual liberation. I mean, the consequences are before you. Okay, you have rape is on the increase. Okay, there is no respect for the opposite gender, especially for women, right? Women are treated as pieces of meat, right? You have adultery and fornication is on the rise because people can't control their sexual desires. Children are more illegitimate children are being born into single parent families, and the single parents are born having these children at a very young age, not being able to cater for them. And so, I mean, there's so many problems, right? So I think we can establish that Krauss didn't do any justice in presenting forth his moral arguments, and I think it's pretty silly to just dive into this any further.
No, I think we're done with that.
The burden of proof is on him, right? Now, as the Quran says, قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْحَانَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Say, if you're truthful, bring your evidence. Like, if you're truthful, we can wait here all day. We can talk to you all day. We've got no problems. We're not here to run in the back, right? We're Muslims. We have the truth, right? Remember, it's a different type of fish that they're dealing with. We can stay here all day, but you need to bring your evidence.
Just on this point, quickly.
Go for it.
We're speaking about rationality, and we've seen that Krauss loves to speak about being rational, using rationality to come to truth. We see Dawkins doing that quite a lot. Pretty much all of these atheists speak about rationality, right? Now,
I know what you're going to do,
here's what's very interesting.
I know what you're going to do, mashallah.
I mean, this is it. This is there, right? This is a very important question as well.
Go for it.
Because, see, they're speaking about rationality, but from their own worldview, the atheists maintain normally naturalism or materialism, right? And that basically means that everything that exists is physical.
Yeah.
Everything that's in existence is physical, and everything that comes into existence is from that physical.
Exactly.
Basically. So it's all physical. Yeah.
It's all physical.
It's all physical and it's random,
Yeah.
basically. Random physical processes that have led to all of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if this is the case, from their perspective, human beings are also a product of random physical processes.
Yes.
Right. So, but if namely evolution and natural selection, right? And what's interesting here is that evolution and natural selection, being random, unconscious, blind, physical processes, only dictate survival and reproduction. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
They only dictate survival and reproduction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if this is the case, right? Here's what's interesting. I would argue there's no need for that ability to rationalize to develop. Right? To use rationality to come to truth, the ability to decipher truth from falsehood, there's no need for it to develop if all that exists is the natural physical world.
Yeah.
And why do I say this? This is very interesting. It's because true beliefs, as well as false beliefs, both can be very useful in survival and reproduction. Right? So there's no need for the development. It's irrelevant for the development.
I follow you, right? But just for the benefit of those who are not able to grasp this, right? Can you give an example of a false belief that might be beneficial
for survival?
Okay,
for example, we'll just take it as say if a man comes up to you with a knife and he puts a knife around to your neck, and he says, "What? Are you a religious person? If you're a religious person, I'm going to kill you." Yeah. What would you do in that scenario? You'll lie.
Yeah.
I'm a religious, and you survive. Yeah. So I mean, and we can elaborate on this a lot, but the fact is that true beliefs as well as false beliefs are both sufficient for survival and reproduction. Absolutely. And if this is the case, the ability to rationally come to truth and to decipher truth from falsehood is irrelevant. There's no need for that ability to develop in this process. And if this is the case, then naturalism itself, materialism itself, refutes itself. It's self-contradictory.
Because it has no...
Yeah. So what people like Krauss and Dawkins have to do is first validate their abilities to reason to the truth, basically.
Okay.
Before they use reason and truth. Because if this is the case, then I would argue that science is impossible as well. You can't have science. Because what you're doing in science, you're using induction,
trying to reason.
Using reason to come to you wouldn't have any of these things if that's true.
It's amazing, subhanAllah. It's like, it's amazing that, when I remember when I started looking into atheism from the Islamic perspective, looking out, right, and I tried to approach it objectively. And it seemed like such a powerful tool, and it put even doubts in me sometimes, right? And then when I started studying it, and I came to realize, for example, like the crusade of atheism is science, right? And just hardcore, intimidating, pseudo academic semantics, right? That's and sometimes you feel inferior to it, and slightly threatened as a theist, because they make you feel inferior, generally because of the mocking and so on and so forth. But when I looked into it, subhanAllah, and you come to terms with the argument from reason, as you just highlighted, the argument from morality and so on and so forth, and the philosophy of science, you come to realize how weak of an argument it actually is.
It's a smoke screen. It's a smoke screen, isn't it?
It's a smoke
screen.
It's an
illusion.
Right? Exactly. And it just reminds me of the verse in the Quran in which Allah says, like don't follow Satan. The plot of Satan is daif. It's weak. And he'll make it appear to you that it's something monumental, like it's some powerful kind of, juggernaut. But at the end of it, it's not really anything. But I think with that, right? Let's
get a drink first. I'm thirsty, man.
You thirsty?
A bit thirsty, yeah.
Here you go.
Now, can I get a drink, bro, man? It's nothing.
Oh, sorry. One sec. Let me pour. Let me
enough
pour
of those nothing jokes, man.
I'm joking. Let me get you some juice.
What did you do there, man?
There you go, man.
Now, how did you do that,
bro?
One of those nothing jokes, isn't it?
From Lawrence Krauss.
Ah, yeah. Speaking of this book, bro, you've actually gone through this quite a bit, and you made some fascinating points regarding his understanding of nothing. Elaborate on that a little, because that's very interesting.
Okay. So it's like, okay, so firstly, I just want to highlight, right? It was Lawrence Krauss. I mean, his main argument is that it's plausible that things can come out of nothing, and it's plausible to say that the universe came as a result of nothing, right? This is his main argument. That's where he stands. I just want to highlight before I actually address this argument, he never actually used this as an argument or even a premise, right, in the debate against Hamza. He didn't.
Right.
He didn't even touch upon it until in the rebuttal Hamza brought it up, right? Until Hamza brought it up, and he was forced to bring it up, and even that too, he didn't actually know what he had written in his book. The people will see, obviously, inshallah, when the debate comes out, he didn't actually know what he was actually saying in his own book, and he made a blunder, and he ended up saying, "But if I wrote it there, I apologize," right?
Oh, yeah.
And we commend him for actually, saying that, he apologized if he made a mistake. Perhaps, when I discuss this, inshallah, you will see why he didn't want to mention it, because I just think he knew that Hamza would tear it up, right? Because he has no basis to actually stand on. What he says is that when he says things can come out of nothing, he's referring to the quantum vacuum, okay?
Right.
And in his words, the quantum vacuum is a bubbling, boiling brew of energy.
So it's not nothing.
Like I said, in his words,
Right. Okay.
it's nothing.
His definition of nothing.
But it's a bubbling, boiling brew of energy.
The quantum vacuum.
The quantum vacuum, right?
Yeah.
Inside it. So, as you said, right, it's not nothing then, is it? There's something there. Okay, very good. Now, he actually says in his chapter, Much Ado About Nothing, nothing isn't nothing anymore. Right? So what he attempts to do now is redefine nothing. And what he does when in this attempt to redefine nothing, right? He actually, we can see there's only if you say that the universe, if you postulate that the universe came out of nothing, okay, this means either one of two things, okay. It means either the universe always existed, so it didn't need to come from anything, right, or the universe actually came out of nothing. Now we know that Lawrence Krauss believes in the Big Bang. And as a result of that, the universe came to begin, right? Strange, as a side point, I just want to mention, in the debate, he kept arguing. He was playing devil's advocate about the eternality of the universe, about the infinite nature of the universe, or the potential of infinite, right? He kind of confused himself because he didn't understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative infinite, right? Yes, you can have infinite in the quantitative sense, in mathematics, but it can never be actualized in the qualitative sense, right? He was arguing this for some reason, I don't know why, because he doesn't believe in it himself, right? I think it was just he was trying to buy time and not address the real issues at hand. But it's like he kept trying to, challenge Hamza on this. Hamza also dealt with it in that regard. But he doesn't actually believe that. In fact, he says in his lectures and over again, even he alludes to it in this book, the Big Bang is a fact. It happened. He also says many times that we can actually trace the Big Bang back to a fraction of a millisecond after it happened, right? So there's no denying that he doesn't actually believe that. Now the second obviously implication is that the universe came from actually nothing, okay? Right. Now let's define what nothing is. Nothing is universal negation. It's a term for universal negation. For example, if I say to you that there is, there was no one in the hallway, but they gave me directions here. There is nothing inside the glass. Well, there is, but assume that there's nothing inside the glass, but it tastes great. Right?
By the way, point out that was a trick as well, because you don't want to actually think something can come.
Yeah, that was a trick. People might actually start
thinking actually something can come out of nothing. No, it doesn't happen.
Exactly. So it's a term for universal negation. When you say nothing, what you're really saying is not anything. Okay. Right. So when you say can the universe come out of nothing, you're saying can the universe come from not anything, right? As a result of not anything. No. Lawrence Krauss doesn't believe this either. And it's absurd. I mean, no one sincere can actually come out and say the universe came from nothing. Okay? Nothing is nothing. For nothing only amounts to nothing. Something's there, it needs to come from something, right? The fact of the matter is, he doesn't believe in either of these implications. So what does he mean when he says nothing? Okay, either he's made a big mistake and he doesn't understand the English language, which is hard for me to believe, considering that it's my second language and I seem to understand this better than him, right? The second thing is perhaps he's trying to mislead the people. And I personally think that this is the case. And you can see at the end, if you read Richard Dawkins' The Forward, what actually sets out to be a book on science. It's actually a really good read in terms of the science, right? ends up being a book that tries to present a worldview. It attempts to present an ontology, right? And it's clear that, that's what he was trying to feed into. I mean, the most you can say is that when he says nothing, what he's trying to do is give a label to the quantum vacuum. It's like, for example, your name is Imran,
right?
Just like my name.
Yeah.
But say I just call you Bob. I just call you Bob. That's the name I give you. It's like if we're being very kind of nice to him, then, and as the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, make 70 excuses, right? So I don't know about 70 for for this book, right? But the first excuse that I can make for him in my head, right, is that he just thought that nothing was a nice name to give something. And that's literally what his argument is, right? And no, it's very misleading. It's intellectually dishonest, and ultimately it is not a contention to the Kalam cosmological argument, which is everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, so the universe has a cause. Now, as you know, this is a deductive argument, right? If the premises are true, the conclusion necessarily follows because it's logically sound. But if the premises are true, then the argument is valid. Okay. Now, what's amazing is, does he believe the universe begins to exist? Well, yes, he does. Does he believe that everything that begins to exist has a cause? Well, he doesn't advocate things come out of nothing. He doesn't say no to it, right? And affirms it in his book by saying that the quantum vacuum is something.
It's almost what you're seeing is he's jumping from
exactly. Even Richard Dawkins in his book, The God Delusion, he says in chapter 4, right, that when his theologian friends ask him, there must have been something, there must have been a first cause, he says, yes, but why does it have to be God? But we don't care what you think why has to be just because of your own personal preference. The fact of the matter is they say there has to be a first cause. They accept that. So then the conclusion is, because the premises are sound, the universe has a cause. Now all we need to discuss is what is the nature of this cause.
Yes. That could be quite easily done.
Very easy.
And it's quite rational to do that. What we're doing is using our rational faculties, which we as Muslims can justify. Atheists can't really justify.
At all. No,
but okay, so if we could do that, what we have to do is basically just think deeply about it, and we come to certain conclusions, right? For example, For example, this cause must be immaterial, right? For example, if it created or caused this material sum of the universe to come into existence at a point, right? And it existed before it did this, therefore it must be immaterial.
Also must be uncaused. Because there's that question, right? If everything that begins to exist has a cause, fine, we accept that because we can't run away. We're back in a corner now, we can't run away. So now, who caused the cause? Well, obviously we know that this would result in
infinite regress.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
And which is absurd. And obviously, as you know, an infinite regress is, I don't really want to go into it now because we can put a link below for more information with regards to the infinite regress.
The thing is, if we start going into the infinite regress, it just becomes irrelevant.
It just becomes irrelevant.
The simple point is that if you've got an infinite regress, we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now.
And
right?
Exactly. And the fact of the matter is, you know what? It's amazing because philosophers from the most, we're talking from the early Greek philosophers, the founders of philosophy, all the way up to philosophers such as Leibniz and so on and so forth, up until present day pseudo-philosophers such as Richard Dawkins affirmed the first cause has to be uncaused. Which I said in chapter 4, he says, yes, there has to be a first cause. There has to be a first cause, yes. He actually affirms to this, okay? So even from an atheistic perspective, they agree because me and you, as you said, wouldn't be here right now. But some other things that we can work out is that this cause is conscious. Because we have consciousness, right? And the naturalistic or materialistic worldview is that everything is just matter. Well, consciousness is not matter. It's not material. It's what? Immaterial. Can something material come from something immaterial?
It doesn't make sense.
Can something that has the ability to ponder, have dreams, feelings, emotions, feel pain, feel happy, feel sad?
You know what you're doing? Once again, we're highlighting one more problem that the atheistic worldview
not just Lawrence Krauss argument. Atheism
in general. They have these problems, and they can't continue to brush these problems under the carpet. It's about time to wake up and start facing these issues because they're quick to raise the finger on Islam or religion but the point is they can't even justify their own worldview. I mean, it's like they're sitting on I guess, a platform that's got so many holes in it, you know, and it's sinking, but they're throwing stones at someone else in the process. I mean, it's just silly. It's
you
crazy.
know what, Imran? MashaAllah, may Allah bless you, Akhi. You just touched on it. You just brought this conversation to the right place where we need to discuss right now. Is you're saying they need to justify these things, okay? The fact of the matter is they can't. You can't, okay?
You can't.
Impossible is impossible, right? And truth is truth, right? As Allah says in the Quran, the truth stands out clear from the falsehood, and we can see that. Now, when atheism was on the rise, it appeared as if atheism was here to stay for a very long time.
Yep.
Now, of course, this is speculative, but it appears that atheism in the recent months has come to a standstill, and people are starting to see that atheism is not such a logical way to view the world as they perhaps saw maybe a few years back. Now, I don't want to discuss atheism as a whole, because I think atheism, with all due respect, right, and I really hope I'm not trying to offend anyone, but atheism is just one of those things. It's a phase. Come, it will go. You know, just like we had many other worldviews in the past. Islam has stood stronger than any other worldview, right? I mean, I think it might have something to do with the fact that it's the truth, and you know, Allah says that He'll protect the Quran. But you know, but you know, that's neither here nor there. What I want to discuss more specifically is the future of Lawrence Krauss. Like, where do you think he can go from this? I mean, the guy's humiliated himself. He's humiliated atheism. Okay, he tried to, you know, be like this knight in shining armor for oppressed women and Muslim segregation, and you know, he ranted and raved for a few days, and Richard Dawkins jumped on a bandwagon. But then suddenly, when some of the material from the debate started coming out, he just quieted down.
Exactly. And Imran, the thing is this, right? There's many atheists out there who are honest people, are looking for the truth,
absolutely,
rational people.
Absolutely.
They don't have any predisposed biases, you know, they don't have any baggage inside. And they want to know the truth, right? But the thing is that people are so busy these days, and you can't blame them, right? Life is busy these days. And they get caught up, they have the things to do, they don't have time to go and study to the depths they need to distinguish what's going on, right? What the truth is. But the point is this, and this is very interesting, what happens is that they find people like Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss, Sam Harris, and they see them as people who can give them information. So it's almost like, okay, I need to learn, I turn to Richard Dawkins, I turn to Sam Harris. And like we said in the beginning, these guys are very, very influential. They have amazing abilities to communicate and talk to people, right? And to sort of engage with people. And so these people just fall into sort of, well, I'm hesitant in saying this, but blind following, I guess, to an extent, right? And they just blindly follow these people, not realizing that these people can't even substantiate their own claims and validate their own positions, right? And this is the sad thing. But I'm sure there's many atheists out there that, you know, even if they're listening to our conversation right now, that this will encourage them to look forward. And if they're thinking, Brother Imran, I want you to just quickly highlight this, if they're actually thinking about this, right? Where do we go from here? I personally, I don't know, tell me if you agree with me, I think what I would suggest them to do is look at something from a deductive perspective, a deductive argument, right? For example, from our perspective, when we say Islam is true, the Quran is from God, right? We don't need to justify it, because we know we have the fitrah and we believe that innately, right? A priori, we don't need evidence for it. But if people want evidence, there is evidence for it, right? For example, the deductive argument about the Quran being a literary miracle, right? I mean, Brother Hamza says, highlights this amazingly in this article, right, which we could probably post at the bottom of the bottom of the video. But the amazing thing is the argument is very simple, you know. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think it goes something like this: that if the premise one is, you know, a miracle is something that lies outside the capacity of nature, productive capacity of nature, right? And the Quran lies outside the productive capacity of nature, literary form of it, right? Therefore, the Quran is a miracle, right? Now, to disprove this argument, whoever wants to disprove it, they have to break down one of the first two premises.
Exactly.
Right? And most of the time, what I've noticed atheists do, they attack the second premise, right? Which is the Quran is a literary miracle. And Krauss tried to do this as well, but I think it was a very cheap attempt.
He didn't understand the argument.
It was a very cheap attempt.
He didn't understand the argument.
I mean, Hamza highlighted, and this is very interesting. I don't know where Krauss's mind was at this point, right? Hamza outlined it clearly that this isn't aesthetic reception. It's not about how it sounds.
Yeah.
Right. This is about the structural features
And
that
that's
you
a
can
very
observe.
objective argument.
Exactly.
Right? It's not. There's nothing
And then
relative about
you
it.
get Krauss coming back up and saying, "Well, there's other things that sound beautiful." You know, he said something along those lines.
Yeah.
And he didn't get it.
He's
And
like,
this is the point. So this is what you have to do. And I mean, what we'll say to the atheists is that, you know, don't look to break down this argument. No, it's not all about trying to break down the argument. Look at the argument, study this, you know, and be honest, I guess.
Yeah, and just as a highlight there, right? Because the argument is to do with the Arabic language, you can't really, someone like Lawrence Krauss or anyone for that matter who's not familiar with the Arabic language to a significant degree doesn't actually have a right to comment on it. Because it's like me speaking in Spanish about someone who's written a poem in German, right? It's two totally different languages, right? So, but the thing is, not everyone can go out there and study the Arabic language, but they don't have to, because we have an abundance in authentic testimony of Western, Eastern, Arab, non-Arab, Muslim, non-Muslim scholarship of the Arabic language that are unanimous, have a consensus that the Quranic literary form is unique and outside the scope of Arabic. And if it's outside the natural scope of Arabic and you cannot provide a naturalistic explanation, then you have to look towards a supernatural explanation, right?
And I would say at this point, when you look for the explanation, remember that the Quran is a message in some respects, right?
Exactly.
And it speaks, right, to you, to people. And look internally then. You've gotten to this point, now let's look internally.
Yeah.
What does the source claim to be? Right? And the source claims to be who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. God, the creator. And you don't need to go any further.
Yeah.
Right? So when you get to this point, just look internally. You can see the source. And that's it. Problem solved. It's that simple, subhanAllah. And is that clear? Imran, can you highlight, I mean, there's one more thing I think we should clarify is that, see, there's many people that have built up this false notion that, you know, religion versus science, theism v science, Islam v science, you know. There's this thing that's hyped up. Now, I wouldn't say it's atheists who do this, but generally there's this notion that's going on around people's minds, there's this concept. This is false when you say this is incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think this is a topic that we need to go into in and of its own. But it's worth mentioning just a few basic things here. I mean, science, with all of its success, right, in providing answers to questions that we had long been, you know, ignorant of, in its advancements in technology and medicine and so on and so forth. All the success that science has had, it's no surprise, right, that in light of the lack of success of Christianity, you would take science as an ontology, as a way to view the world, right? Because and therefore science is in conflict with Christianity, and with regards to Christianity providing you answers, I mean, it struggles in that regard, but science it supersedes, right? And this whole kind of scientism movement, scientism is not even a real word, but you know, it's what it is, right? Scientism movement has actually stemmed from countries that were heavily populated by Christianity or under the influence of the Christian doctrine. Muslims have never had this issue. I mean, in fact, the scientific method came from the Muslims.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Ibn al-Haytham, rahimahullah, right, 10th century Islamic scholar, founded, right, the scientific method as we know it today. And you know what's very wrong, and it's a great injustice, right, to attribute the scientific method to the Greeks, right? All those people like Aristotle was the father of studying the natural sciences, but in no way can you attribute the scientific method to him because there wasn't enough structure at the time. But the first individual who came up with the structure was Ibn al-Haytham, okay? And also the inductive method, which is attributed to Roger Bacon, who came before Francis Bacon. I mean, again, this is wrong because Ibn al-Haytham had criticized Aristotle in his works for not employing the inductive method enough, because he felt it as a more appropriate means for truth when we're talking about scientific truths. You see what I'm saying? So science actually came as a result of Islam. And you know what? The reason why was because the Quran would tell us to go and look towards nature. As Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, may Allah have mercy on him, one of the most illustrious scholars of the Islamic tradition, stated that Allah has given us two books. He gave us a closed book and an open book. The closed book being the Quran, the open book being the world. the natural world, the cosmos, as it were, the universe.
Telling you to go out and do science.
Exactly. أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Do they not look to the camel and how it was created?
Oh.
Right? Do they not look to the sky and ponder? Do they not look to the mountain and again think, reflect? Right? Do they not do this? Do they not look at that? Do they not look at the stars? Do they not look at the moon? Do they not look at the sun? Do they look at the universe? Look at all these things. Right? Look at the body. Look. Do they not reflect upon the seminal fluid? Reflect on the seminal fluid. I mean, think about it for a second, right? The Quran told us, go here. So Muslims went there, and there's never been a conflict, right? There's never been a conflict because we always understood the boundaries and the limitations of science.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in the West, they didn't have this luxury because their worldview initially was in conflict with science. So thus, obviously, they didn't have any other option to look towards. They eliminated what they had, and they took the best option.
So it's incorrect, basically,
It's
to
incorrect.
superimpose that
Exactly.
that Christian narrative onto the Islamic narrative.
It's true,
itself.
but I don't necessarily blame them because, you know, I mean, look, let's be honest, human beings are judgmental,
No, of
no matter
course.
how much we try.
Yeah.
So they're gonna paint religion with that same brush, and it's okay. But the beautiful thing is that now people are coming to terms with Islam, right? And the coherency and the validity of Islam as an intellectual viewpoint with regards to the world, right? There's no inconsistency in the arguments that have been presented forth. There's no holes. There's nothing shady. There's nothing missing. And it reminds me of a verse in the Quran: "ما ترى في خلق الرحمن من تفاوت فارجع البصر هل ترى من فطور." Allah says, right? Look towards the creation of the Most Merciful. Pick out even one. Can you see one mistake? One missing link, right? Not just in the creation. Try and pick out one missing link in the arguments, right? And hats off to you. Hats off to you if you can. But you won't be able to, as Allah says in the Quran. Challenge the Quran. Can you create something like it? No, if you can't, you won't. You have not been able to. You will not be able to. Then fear the fire, whose fuel is men and stones. Right? It's not a threat. It's a warning.
It's so simple.
It's a warning, right? Because the one who created you, with all of these evidences around you, for you to turn your back on Him, for you to turn your back on the Creator, who gave you everything that you have. I mean, wow. As we said, to turn your back on the Creator is to turn your back on morality. It's to turn your back on reason. It's to turn your back on everything. You have no... Let's end it here.
Yeah.
Let's end it here. Well, I sincerely hope that people can see past the facade of individuals like Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins. I sincerely believe that people will be apprehensive at least. Okay, I understand that people are not going to change in a second. They're not going to switch poles in a second. Just approach their arguments and materials with a degree of apprehension, right? And at the same time, as Professor Krauss, many have seen the trailer 2013, right? Official trailer, The Unbelievers, the movie that Richard Dawkins and Lawrence. I was going to say Richard Krauss, right? Because they're two in one. But Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss put out. It's like this. Lawrence Krauss, he says in a very powerful way. He goes, everything you believe, nothing that you believe is subject from being questioned. I agree. Question atheism.
Question atheism. That is the point. And like you said, don't follow these guys just for the sake of following someone with degrees and PhDs and people that have written. It's just authority, really, right?
Authority.
It's authority. They've got degrees, PhDs. They've written tons of books. They've studied at well-known established universities. They're professors. It doesn't mean they're speaking the truth or they know the truth, right? So I mean, people have to look past that. And I want to say, approach it apprehensively, approach it open-mindedly, right? And don't just submit straight away.
I agree.
Read and ask the questions.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I retract what I said. I mean, apprehensively, wrong word. Open-mindedly.
Open-mindedly, that's it. That's simple.
We'll leave it there. Inshallah, I think on the next Imran show, we will be discussing something that will be equally of interest, inshallah. In the meantime, we ask the viewers, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you and guide you, keep you firm, to obviously share the video, subscribe to the YouTube link, and keep posted. We'll keep you posted.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Take care of yourself, yeah?
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah. Here's your...
No, I don't want it.
Here's your nothing.
You can keep this, bro.
Here's your nothing.
I don't want this, bro.
It's a
No,
gift.
you keep it. No, no.
Okay.
You read it, bro.
Okay, here's a gift.
Jazakallah khair. That's much better.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu.